What up? We live. Welcome to Wellness Wednesdays with CJ. It's me, your girl, Christian Jackson, the daddy issues expert. I'm a licensed therapist here in South Carolina, and I help women recover from relationship trauma. Ding. So I'm pumped to have y'all here tonight because I have a super special guest. I do want to introduce myself. So let me just pace it so I don't get ahead, right? You heard me talk about myself or refer to myself as the daddy issues expert, and that is because I wrote the books on them. So here she is, Daddy Issues: How to Detangle from the Sins of Our Fathers, and her sister, the workbook, right? So this is the movement. Here at Couch with Christian, my goal is to lead the charge in changing the language, the shame, and the stigma associated with daddy issues. If you are watching live and you guys are trickling in here, if you watch the replay, go ahead and put in the chat, what do you think of when you hear the term daddy issues? I'm gonna let you know all of it's ugly. It's not nice. They calling us sluts and hoes and clingy and all these things, right? And so instead of looking at it as women who are in recovery from emotional trauma, right? We're not looking at it that way. And so I want you to be very clear about what the daddy issues movement is. So I'm hoping that you scroll through my content at some point. If you are new to the couch crew, the people that I so lovingly refer to as, those are my supporters, the people who want to rock with me and really learn how to shift the perspective, take responsibility and accountability for what you do with yourself when you are triggered. How do you treat yourself, right? So you ain't finna come on here and say, hey, Christian said I got daddy issues, so I can pop off at my man. That is not okay. That's not what we're doing, okay? As a woman who is still in recovery from daddy issues and literally had an argument with her husband last night, they come up. Okay, but what I didn't do is kick the wall like I really wanted to, right? And so if you are part of the movement, you are doing your work, then you know how to handle things when they get a little rough, right? You know how your body responds, you know what to do. And the books that I wrote for you share my story and that of women that I have treated over the years. I've basically curated a system that you can literally work when you are trying to figure out why I'm showing up in certain relationships as it relates to what I learned from my daddy, right? So this is really applicable to any really close, intimate relationship you might have had with someone who was part of your village when you was coming up. Who is it that contributed to the values you have, the worldview you have? Are you putting up the walls because you ain't really trying to get close to anyone? You feel uncomfortable? What are these things? These things, y'all, are attachment issues, okay? And so, yes, there is a chapter in my book called Attachment, because you cannot talk about daddy issues, you can't talk about mommy issues, grandma issues, auntie issues without really looking at how and why you show up in relationships, because you learn your habits and your patterns from somewhere. Okay, so I have a chapter in my book about it so that you can really understand what I mean by abandonment and rejection issues, or not being able to trust yourself, and all the things I list as bullet points when I'm telling you what daddy issues are according to Christian. Now, what I've been trying to do recently is do a better job at allowing you to name your trauma, right? This is daddy issues according to me, but I'm not the gospel. And so hopefully what you can do is listen to what you hear tonight and make sense of whatever that is for yourself, and connect with myself or Taylor Chandler. I'm super pumped to have her here tonight. I'm going to bring her on in a second. I want to tell you real quick how we met. I dropped my book last year. I wrote it in 2019. COVID happened. I had nothing to do. So I figured out how to publish my book. And so she found me on the interwebs. She said it was timely for her. And we have been friends in my head ever since, and on our Instagram accounts. And so I've been on her podcast. She is now here. So I'm really excited to be able to host her. Listen, I have been talking all week about some Taylor, okay? And I tell my friends about her. I tell the people I work with professionally about her, because you cannot talk about daddy issues without talking about attachment. And nobody talks about attachment ever in my professional career the way that I have heard Taylor do that. And so she is here to answer the questions, give it to y'all straight. I have been sharing her content since Monday on my IG. Go back and look. You will know how to follow her by the end of the show. Let's just get to it, okay? Let me allow Taylor to come on. I see y'all popping in here, so let me get her in here with us. Hey, Taylor.
Hey y'all. Hey Christian.
If I had a stage, sis, it would be all the applause, all the things. And let me tell
I
you
feel it.
something. This is so exciting because I literally am a fangirl, but from one professional helper and healer to another, I really love the work you do. And I have told you time and time again, I'm going to be at your workshop on Saturday. I'm going to let you tell people what you do, but
Yes.
please tell us who you are, what you do.
Yes. Okay. Wow. A few things already because
Okay.
I'm like, okay, there's me, but then you get me so excited to talk about this stuff. You know, I love talking about it. And I love the way that you
Yes.
talk about it as well. So,
Thank
but
you.
I'm Taylor Chandler. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist. I'm originally
Hmm.
from Virginia. I live in Atlanta.
Hmm.
And I help people move from an insecure attachment style to a secure attachment style. And we break negative relationship cycles.
Oh, yes. Oh, I
Mm-hmm.
like that. Come on, elevator speech.
Thank
Okay.
you. Thank you.
Okay.
And let me say this, as you were describing like
Hmm.
the importance of attachment styles, and we're going to talk so much about it, but I
Hmm.
was thinking, and I honestly, believe it or not, have never done this before. What just happened in my brain has never happened before. Where
Oh.
I was listening to you say it, I thought about myself at like age 16, and I was like, wow, if I was 16 years old and heard this, 16, 18, right, and heard this and been like, wow, there's an answer. Like, you know, and I just think about like the relief that it brings people, because I hear it all the time, and I know you hear it all the time as well, like how helpful it
Hmm.
is for people to be able to, like you said, make sense out of the things. And I
Hmm.
was like, wow, that would have been nice. You know, so I
If I had the
appreciate, I like
information.
that. Yeah, if only I had it. Now we just do it.
Yes, sis. Come on, inner
Yeah.
child. Come on, inner child. Because listen, that's work that I'm sure you do too. Matter of fact, that's what
Yeah.
you're doing Saturday. So I am super pumped about just that comment because we got to revisit little sis, little bruh, whoever is inside of you, because
Mm-hmm.
she or he or they are the people who needed to hear the things that
Mm-hmm.
we get to tell people now. I think you made a post about being a therapist that you needed,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
period, right? And
Yeah.
so the way this is going to go tonight, y'all, I see you guys trickling in, is that I'm going to monitor the chat as best I can, do the questions if there are any. I'll let you know what they are. I like to have a blueprint or a plan even when I go into therapy, but I just kind of go where spirit leads me. So we're going to rock and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know if you could first, let's start out by laying the groundwork. When we talk about attachment theory, give us the rundown of what the attachment styles are in whatever order you want, and just kind of let us know what they are and how we know we might be that type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Okay.
would love to. So first, you want to think about it like two categories. One category is the insecure category, and the other category is the secure category. And on the
Hmm.
secure side, there's only secure. That's it.
Right.
It's just one of them. So
Only
there's
secure.
just secure, secure
Just the
attachment
one.
style. That's it. Just one. You got what is one
Hmm.
bullseye on the secure side. On the insecure side, you got a couple more options. Okay.
Hmm.
I like to, you
Just a few more.
think about it like a little, like a little insecure party. There's a couple different options for that. You got the anxious, preoccupied person. You have a dismissive
Hmm.
avoidant. You have a fearful avoidant. And fearful avoidant, for the most part, in general, in the industry, made fearful avoidant and disorganized the same thing.
Okay.
So
Yes.
sometimes, like when you're reading, because attachment theory isn't new, but
Right.
when you're reading some of the things, older things, so I would say like probably before like 2018. So it's not that old, right? But
Hmm.
especially like the way the internet is, you get new stuff all the
Right.
time. So, but like older things, you would see disorganized and fearful avoidant separate. And then when if people that are reading things online and different articles are noticing that one or the other is gone, because fearful avoidant and disorganized are so similar, practically the
Hmm.
same. So I use fearful avoidant. I
Hmm.
use that word rather than disorganized.
Hmm.
Um,
Same. Me too.
Okay, yeah. So
Hmm.
I like that you can kind of, one thing I like about attachment styles is you can sort of infer what it means without knowing anything about it based off of the language. So
Right.
fearful avoidant kind of gives you a bit of an image. But let me break down like what some of the characteristics are and some of the symptoms of each attachment style. So
Okay.
first we'll start with secure. Let's just get the secure ones out the
Let's
way.
get that one out the
Let's
way.
just get it out the way. The secure attachment style. So these are people who are okay with being independent and okay with being in relationships. So they get that
Mhm.
sweet spot of interdependency. So I'm able to healthfully depend on you, which means that I'm able to rely on you for some supports.
Mhm.
But I don't depend on you for my existence. I don't depend on
Oh.
you so that I can function as my own individual. Okay,
Mhm.
so that, which is codependency. Independency, which I also, I'm so big with language, so I don't,
Mhm.
I say hyper independent just to make it very clear what we're talking
Okay.
about. So codependency on one side and hyper independency on the other side. The hyper independent person, um, opposite of codependency. So I don't need you for
Okay.
anything.
Fact.
When
Okay.
I'm good all on my own. This is like the island man, the island
Mhm.
woman. So I'm okay. I don't need anything at all. And then that interdependent is that sweet range in the middle where I might swing to either side on whatever day of the week. Maybe I'm a bit more independent on Monday. I'm leaning more towards dependency on Friday, but I'm sort of like staying in that sweet spot of interdependency where we can exist together without consuming each other or passing like two ships in the night. So we have this healthy ability to be able to come together and separate in a ebbing and flowing way. Okay, so
What
my
the heck?
secure, oh, everything okay? Can you hear me?
Hey, what's going on with the internet?
Can you hear me? Oh, it's just me. So wait.
Hey,
Hey.
I just lost connection. I'm not sure what's happened, but we're still live.
So you can hear me? You can see me?
I can hear and see you. Did y'all see
Okay.
me in the background cursing and all the things? Did you catch
Okay.
all that?
Okay, great. I got something. We did. You got a little bit of something. It's okay. We're gonna just move. We'll just flow right over it.
Let me
Okay.
keep going. I
We're
was
gonna.
yelling for my husband to fix the signature. I don't know what's happening. Hey, y'all, I'm back. So listen, can I just come in and I want to come? I want to catch up because I don't want to miss the good things. The last thing I heard you say was the hyper.
Hyper independent, yes. So
And then
that
you was
I
like
don't
talking
rely
about
on you for anything. Sweet spot of interdependency and the range in the middle, codependency hanging out on the other side. My
got it.
secure types are going to hit that sweet range in the middle.
Yes.
Some symptoms of a secure attachment style.
Mm-hmm.
You're able to self-soothe. So being securely attached doesn't mean you never experience like anxiety. Doesn't mean that you don't
Right.
experience something like disappointment in a relationship. Like you're not exempt from like normal relationship things, but you are more able than my insecure types to
Mm-hmm.
be able to manage those negative feelings when they come up. And you're also more likely to attribute those feelings to the right thing. Meaning,
Mm-hmm.
like if I have a bad day at work, I'm more likely able to pinpoint that my irritation is about my coworkers rather than
Mm-hmm.
my partner. And I might be able to, it doesn't mean that the feelings, I have to act like the feelings don't exist with my partner, but I am able to say, this is how I'm feeling and point to where it's coming from so that it's not being expelled onto that person. So
Yes.
you have better emotional management on the secure side. So the insecure side,
Yay, that's
I love them.
me.
I love insecure types. Okay, I consider
Yes.
myself, someone had asked in the chat, can I share some of my background? And part of
Yes.
that is being a recovery. I say recovery because
Mm-hmm.
the journey to secure attachment is so, and the journey out of codependency is so similar to addiction. The recovery, addiction recovery. And I like the word recovery also because it implies that it's never really done. Like I still
Exactly.
experience anxiety. I still can experience feelings of wanting to withdraw. I can still mismanage situations in relationship or personally. And so I like recovery because it gives, I also like margin for error. It gives you some margin for error. Like, okay,
Yes.
I don't need to be like, so I would say like, I'm primarily secure with anxious and avoidant tendencies. Cause it's true.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I like that.
Yeah. So you just
Even
gotta,
some grace.
yeah, it's I think
Okay.
about it like when you pull up to Chick-fil-A
Mm-hmm.
and you normally want like the chicken sandwich and the fries. So you're like
Right.
secure with a little bit of avoidance. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So the insecure side, remember we have three that we're going to talk about. So the
Okay.
anxious preoccupied, dismissive avoidant, and the fearful avoidant. The anxious preoccupied person finds themselves like ruminating about the relationship and trying to maintain the relationship like it's their job.
Ooh.
Okay, so finding yourself excessively thinking about what can I do to make something better, overtaking the responsibilities of maintaining the relationship. You're also likely to suppress your real needs and appease your partner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
the dismissive and there's so much to say about all of these, but just like the nutshells, the dismissive avoidant person is more likely to withdraw, to deny that feelings might exist at all, that their own feelings might exist, or that their feelings about you exist, or that they're frustrated. They're more likely to deny or minimize feelings and the nature of the relationship. Some
Oh, wait a
symptoms.
minute, Taylor.
Mm-hmm.
So dismissive, like they're gonna dismiss pretty much everything around them, just to completely the feelings don't exist, even mine, not my
Well,
partner's.
could be. So they're able to still like engage in the relationship, which is why so many anxious types can end up with avoidant types. So they are willing to enter into relationships, but it's usually when there's some sort of like responsibility of the relationship, like talking about feelings,
Mm-hmm.
like being able to assure my partner that I'm there for them. Responsibilities of a relationship that they're more likely to shy away from,
Mm-hmm.
aka avoid them.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Dismissive avoidant types have a harder time in general identifying what their feelings actually are. So
Mm-hmm.
it can be scary to confront some of the difficult things that happen in relationships. And so they're more likely to just withdraw, where my anxious types are more likely to be like, even if they don't have the answer, to say, let's talk about it right now. Like, I want to
Mm-hmm.
handle this. Where the dismissive avoidant person is more likely to be like, this is too much and I don't want to talk about it at all. The
Got it.
fearful avoidant type, which I really like the fearful avoidance. Okay. I really like the fearful avoidance. You know, I used to actually identify myself as an anxious avoidant. Because I also should say this, and I should have said this first. So we're going to pause
Mm-hmm.
for a second and back up to the
Bring
very
it back.
beginning, where
Okay.
attachment exists on a spectrum. So no one's one thing all the time. And
Right.
so a lot of times I'll get questions about like, well, I think I'm anxious, but I'm not really sure because in my with the present person that I'm dating, I'm feeling the need to withdraw. I'm feeling like it's overwhelming. I don't understand what I am. And
Mm.
attachment exists on a spectrum. The different symptoms of the different styles can be exasperated based off of the circumstances that you find yourself in. So, for
Mm-hmm.
example, you can find yourself with a partner who you find out is incredibly anxious, and that might trigger your avoidance. You might be with a partner who is incredibly avoidant, and that might trigger your anxiety. So people just aren't anything, all one thing all of the time. So you think about
Yeah.
attachment styles like you can think about any kind of human trait. I like to use kindness as an example. You can
Mm-hmm.
be more kind or less kind, but you're not just kind. And you're
Right.
not just that kind all of the time. Sometimes you're
Mm-hmm.
more, sometimes you're less. And it's based off of a lot of things: who you're
Yeah.
talking to, how did you sleep, what did you eat, have you ate, like that kind of thing. And attachment
Mm-hmm.
styles, the way that pops up can be much the same. So my fearful of what, so I said I used to identify as an anxious avoidant type.
Mm-hmm.
Now I really I can identify myself more as a fearful avoidant type. I think it's
Okay.
more specific and more true for me.
Mm-hmm.
The fearful avoidant type, you're hot and cold, pushy or push
Mm.
and puller. So these are people who are able to admit that they want a relationship and they're telling the truth, just like most people in these in when they're showing up bad in relationships, they're usually showing like how they truly feel or what they really think. So my fearful avoidant types might say, hey, I want to be with you, and they're telling the truth, but then they have actions that show that they're pushing you away, which can be really confusing. So again, then this is one of the reasons why fearful avoidant and disorganized have been meshed together, because you can hear from that, right? Like, I don't know what I want. I want you close, and I want you far away. I'm scared if you leave, and I'm scared if you stay. So it keeps it's sort of like this hot and cold limbo that they're kept in. So the symptoms of a fearful avoidant type. Let's see. What's a nutshell for that? Oh, yeah, this one. Yeah, this one. My fearful avoidance. I'm gonna give you just one like really common one that shows up with this type, which is that they typically like to disperse their romantic energy around, so that I'm not having to focus on just one person, and you are not just focusing on me. I need different sources, because I'm kind of afraid to just rely on you to show up for me. So I need a little bit of you, and I need a little bit of John, and I need a little bit of Bree. And I kind of disperse because I'm not sure if you're going to stay, and I'm not sure if I'm going to stay. So I'm going to kind of like plant seeds around just in case. And fearful avoidants are really good at that.
Oh, I wonder if part of that is like it's just hard to be seen, period. Like if I stay static, then you might see me. You know, I might be exposed.
Absolutely.
That could be a scary thing.
For sure.
And a lot to manage, I would say.
Yeah.
Damn. This is shifting my whole perspective on what I've always thought I'm anxiously attached. I know it's there. It's something. And someone in the comments says me in college. I'm guessing Jessica means the John and the Bree and all the things. You know, that fearful avoidant. So just to be clear, the relationship, the desire for one is there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like, do I want to stay? How long do I want to stay? All those things. So I guess I'm wondering, as far as this goes, and relationships, when you work with people, when you're coaching, doing your thing, what is like one of the top things that people say that they want? And like, I guess like character traits, I don't really know how to
so communication comes up all the time, of course. I think that's every single therapist on the planet. Everybody comes in saying like, good communication. I want better communication. So being more specific about that is so important. Like, what does that mean? What would that actually sound like? You know, the therapy questions. So good communication is always on the list. But the other things I would say is just is communication. And I want someone who won't leave me.
Oh, someone who won't leave me. Okay, listen, let's just go right into daddy issues then. Because I was thinking about how that might show up as far as, do people first of all come to you knowing that they haven't ever like outright I said I have daddy issues, and then how would you maybe kind of see that when you're doing your work?
Not many people say that I have daddy issues or mommy issues. Some do. It's more of like, it's more they describe what it is, and then that would be like the label on it. What was the second part of the question?
Just wondering, so because that's what I thought, right? That's kind of some of the pivot and how I'm trying to kind of like lead the charge in the daddy issues movement, is that people aren't necessarily naming it that. So when they come to you, what are some of the things that they're saying that you identify as daddy issues?
So let's see. Some of the things that I might hear are, I have no problem with my friends. I don't know why I can't get it right in the romance stuff. Like they'll say like, I can say no to my friends. I can cancel my plans. I can change my mind. I can leave a friendship. I can meet new friends. I'm flexible there, but I have this like difficulty being able to manage my romantic relationships. That's really common. Other things, short-term relationships, so you're in and out, so you don't have an issue with attracting a partner, and people don't have like someone is willing to be with you and you are
Mm-hmm.
showing up but unable to sustain them. So it's usually about like that 4 to 6 months is when like the things start happening. It's not before that, but it's usually about like 4 to 6 months. And that's I would say that's even like a more matured, insecure person if you can make it out to 6 months without having like an issue, right? Like a lot of people hit that 30-day mark. So
And I'm
I
good.
guess I should recant that statement and say it's usually not 4 to 6 months. I would say more often it's even shorter than that. So short-term relationships, willing to be in them, but not understanding, not able to sustain them. That happens a lot. A lot of people now are coming in with the language. So hearing, I have a fear of abandonment. I'm really bad with rejection. Abandonment and rejection, those two things are coming up a lot. So people are just coming out, they're just saying that. like I'm scared. I get afraid when I think someone's going to leave me. And then I freak out, and then I'll ask them like what their brand of freaking out is. So those are the big ones. Rejection. I have a difficulty dealing with rejection, or I see rejection when it's not really there. I'm afraid of being left. I'm not sure why I'm attracting these types of people, these emotionally unavailable. That's a big one, right?
Yes.
I'm unsure why I'm attracting these emotionally unavailable types. And short-term relationships. Yeah. Those are the big ones.
You just reminded me of something that you did a video on, which hit me because I could think of a few people I have conversations with around boundaries. And I think you were talking about how there's this fear of rejection and how boundaries can be misinterpreted. So for someone who is anxiously attached or somewhere around there, if my partner tells me no, then I'm automatically like, how dare you? Like those are some of my daddy's girls, like that's because they don't always come saying I have daddy issues, or even someone who's a daddy's girl who, I would define that as someone who has a great secure relationship with her father, which I'm thankful for. And I'm so glad you do. He was present emotionally, physically, supportive, all the things. And that doesn't really click for the woman who has a relationship with her father. And so for those women, and I wrote about her in my book, when she's told no, she goes crazy. So one of the things that you said is, why can't it be that this person is putting up a healthy boundary for themselves? Like, why can't you just see it that way? Because it's only fair for someone and healthy for someone to say no, right? So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So essentially it comes down to empathy. If I can't recognize that I have a need for space, for example, like that's something that an anxious person gets triggered by often when a partner wants some space, some time, or says, I need to process my thoughts. I need to come back to this tomorrow. Or maybe they don't say anything, which is really triggering for an anxious person, where you don't get a deadline for when the conversation is going to continue. If I don't recognize that I have a need for space, as we all do, if I don't recognize that in me, it's very difficult. I almost want to say impossible. I don't want to say impossible. It's very difficult.
Yes.
To validate it for you, because I don't think I can't see the meaning behind it, the reason behind it. So when you say it, you must not be telling me the truth, that you just need space, because I can't recognize it in myself. So, and that's really just empathy. Right. So if I haven't been able to, if I don't know boundaries, which is typically my anxious type, but dismissive types have boundaries out the ass, which are walls, right? Boundaries and walls are different things. They're just, walls are often mistaken for boundaries with the dismissive type. So they might have no issue telling people no, actually might even do it excessively. Like putting up no, don't come here, don't come here, don't go there. Your place is right there. This is your corner, stay there. And that's more likely a dismissive type, where the anxious type is like, well, what's wrong with us just roaming everywhere? Here, come into my stuff. Take whatever you want. Right. So I haven't set boundaries. I don't know the meaning behind it. I haven't figured out why I end up feeling resentful when someone comes in and takes all of my things. I haven't figured out that I opened the door and I offered it to you. I haven't put it all together. And so I can't recognize what boundaries are for. So it's really difficult to validate that and accept that in you when I don't think that I need it or I've never seen it.
So empathy, that's a different perspective as far as just thinking about if I don't understand that, if I don't recognize that, then how can I really empathize?
Almost you can think about it in terms of any difference. You can think about it in terms of race. It's the same issue. Because what you're asking someone to do is imagine an experience that they've never lived, which is a big ask.
It is
as morally right as it might be to be emotionally responsible in a relationship or to treat everybody of every color the same, as right as it all is. Right. It's a big ask to ask you to imagine an experience that you've never had and then to care about it, which is sort of what's happening between like an anxious and an avoidant type. I want you to imagine what it's like to feel like when you ask me to make plans, I'm avoidant. When you ask me to make plans, I feel smothered. And an anxious type is like, when you ask me to make plans, I feel elated. So it's two totally different experiences. And you're trying to get someone to understand where you're coming from. That's empathy. But usually we're not using good language and we're not using good communication skills for it. So it's just a big mess.
Yes.
And that's why we go to therapy. Figure it out.
That's why we go to therapy, okay? So then I knew I was gonna be triggered when you was talking. So I'm trying not to rush this conversation because I'm feeling the type of way, you know. But I guess I'm wondering because I talk to people who are dating, I talk to people who are married. A big thing that's been coming up for me really lately is I'm feeling single in my marriage. For one person who again doesn't necessarily understand the other person's needs or wants. And they're just like you said, the anxious type. Like I'm elated when you ask me for time or we make plans. So then why don't you get that? I don't understand. Like that leads to a whole different conversation. But I guess what I'm wondering is like as we're wrapping up, folks, so y'all go ahead. I gotta put my babies to bed. Period. Okay, come in the chat, ask us some questions. I am wondering about the path to security. Like, what would you say? Like, how can we have boundaries and grace while dating, or just like being in secure relationships?
Yeah. So, a couple main things. One, understanding what I said earlier, like what your brand of freak out is. And what I mean by that, like if I'm talking to a client, is like what physiological symptoms do you have when you feel triggered, when you want to either avoid or cling? Something happens before you do something. There's something that happens in your body that gives you the urge to then act. And so one thing that you can do is slow down enough, be curious enough to know what your brand is. What are my physiological symptoms? For some people, it's a racing heart. It's a tight chest. For some people, it's sweaty palms. For some, they feel tired, fatigued. So you have something in you happens. And so one of the first things that I ask someone to do, and we usually do it in session, I'll ask someone, and anybody could do this that listens to this, is to think about a time where you were triggered, whether it was a real thing that was going on or a perceived threat. Regardless, your body goes through the same process. And so just putting yourself in that time and thinking, okay, before I did something, what happened right before that and right before that and right before that, and get really familiar. Yeah. So in recovery, so I used to work in addiction. In recovery, we say play the tape all the way through. Because a lot of times we get focused on like the big moment, right? When you pulled up to the job, right?
Okay.
When you rage text, right? When the big fight was, but something happened before that, and you need to know your process so well so that you can interrupt it when it's happening.
Ooh, interrupted. I like that.
So we're gonna interrupt.
I used to work in addictions too, and that's yeah, girl. And it was like when you were talking earlier, we used to just call it what's your red flag? Like, how do you know that you're finna go to this block and get this route? I
Yeah.
need you to tell me, because you
Yeah.
know what it is. What are your
Yes.
internal triggers? What are your external triggers? Who's
Yeah.
around you? What's around you? Yes, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And
All
then
of
someone
that.
here is in the chat talking about, she says, Jessica says she encourages clients to demand their self-care, telling them that it's okay to take space and take care of themselves. Um, this is a question, I guess. Did you have something else? Because I didn't know. She has a question here. Speaking of
I
interruptions,
see.
I'm just kidding. It
Uh,
says, what attachment times struggle? What is, I guess you meant attachment styles struggle with this,
mm-hmm.
struggle with demanding their self care, which is really a question I hadn't gotten to,
Mm-hmm.
just to be respectful of your time and the time boundary. But um, what would empower someone to, I guess, demand that self care, as Jessica is talking about in the chat? Um, are they imposing? Is what she's saying. What kind of attachment style would that be?
Are they imposing?
And Jessica, if you want to come back and clarify that question, then that would be great. Hey, Nancy. Oh, I
Imposing.
didn't see her. Yeah.
Okay.
So,
So basically, some people don't demand their self-care or take the
mm-hmm,
space that they need. What types
mm-hmm.
struggle with this? Typically, an anxious, preoccupied type.
Okay.
Okay, because this dismissive types can take excessive space. Okay, excessive
Mm-hmm.
space. Whereas like you don't even need all that, you're avoiding. Okay,
Yes.
so
Okay.
where
At this point,
anxious
it's
types,
been 3 weeks. I haven't heard from you.
right. Like that's we get to a place where it becomes unreasonable. There's a this comes up all often where I'm like, okay, when we talk about valid needs, and the internet loves to talk about everything being valid, and I
Being
love to tell
valid. Yeah.
people it's not, because you have
Mm-hmm.
like a range of validity, and then past that point, it becomes dysfunctional. Like where, okay, this is a valid need for space, and some of us have more. I have a need for a certain level of need for space, and Christian, you have what? And they're going to be different because they're different individuals, right? They might be in
Right.
the same range, but they're going to be different. But then there gets to be a place where I'm no longer taking space, or for my anxious people, I'm no longer getting a reasonable need of reassurance. Now I'm depending on this
Mm-hmm.
for my functioning. Where I'm bad way to put it. Bad way to put it. There's a reasonable need for space or reassurance, but when I've gone beyond that to now I need you if I don't get it, I feel less than. There it is. If I don't get it from you, now I'm in a deficit.
Yes.
I am as an individual, I feel at a deficit or at a loss. That's where it's become dysfunctional.
Mm-hmm.
Because if
Mm-hmm.
you don't
Mm-hmm.
give it to me, I have a huge problem.
I'm
Rather than if you don't
internalizing at
give
this
it to
point.
Right. Rather than if you don't give it to me, I would have preferred if you had. I didn't get it. I would have liked to get it. I didn't. And I can still function as an individual. I'm not going to like, oh, it's not turning into this big catastrophe.
Oh, yes. Would
Um,
that be codependence, Taylor? That's something that I kind of
yep.
struggle explaining.
Yep.
Someone in the chat, Sarah Alley, she says she feels that too much.
Mhm.
And I guess I wonder, like, for someone who does feel that, like, I am not valid or a real person, or I'm not secure or okay
Mhm.
without A, B, and C. Like, what would you tell
Mhm.
that person?
Mhm.
Shit, what would I
I
say?
always, I always, I always question that when someone says
Yeah.
every 100% of the time when someone says I just need him to do this. Say, well, maybe you do, maybe you don't. So we need to first just like you have to be
Mm-hmm.
willing to be wrong because
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, you're not with someone, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
super confident saying because it's just statistically speaking, let's talk about rational thinking. You're usually
Mm-hmm.
not with someone or dating someone or in a relationship with someone who is intentionally withholding something from you because they want to see you freak out. That's
Right.
not generally that's not what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
It
Mm-hmm.
might be because you have an unreasonable ask, and we have to be
Exactly.
willing on the insecure side. We have to be willing to say maybe I am
Mm-hmm.
pushing this thing. Maybe I
Mm-hmm.
am like maybe like the need for reassurance is
Mm-hmm.
valid, but is the way that I'm asking for it or the level of am I
That part.
asking you to do what I really could do for myself? That's codependency, right? Where I
Yes, yes.
could do this, but I either feel like I can't or
Mm.
I've learned helplessness, learned that I can't. And so
Mm-hmm.
now someone else has to come in and do what I could reasonably do for myself.
Mm.
So what I'm asking for is for you to keep me small. Keep me small because I need your help. I need your help. And that irritates secure people. It really irritates dismissive, avoidant people. Secure people are more likely to be able to at least like give you something, right?
Yeah,
Is like, I'm not doing all of that. I'm not doing all of that. And so that's when we kind of have to, instead of going right to like, well, this person is toxic or this person is emotionally unavailable, which people love to throw either of those things onto someone when really they might have, and I'm going to go back to what when you talked about a video that I did, maybe they just have a good boundary. Maybe they're just saying that's a bit too much. The time you're asking for from me is too much, or the space that you're asking for a relationship you agree to, and you need 2 weeks every time we get into an argument to talk again. That's an unreasonable ask. And so it's not that the need itself is not valid, but it might be to a degree that is invalid, that is unreasonable. So those are things when with all needs, and I love talking about emotional needs, with all of the needs that we believe that we have to assess the reasonability, I don't know, of it, the validity of it. And then another thing to go back into daddy issues, I need to really take a look at these needs that I have. It's looking a whole lot like it would have been nice to get from mom or dad. And so pink flag, okay? Pink flag.
Okay.
So it might not be that your partner is giving, put it like this. It's possible that your partner really is missing the mark. Totally possible. I just give it, because usually I'm working with someone one-on-one. And so usually I just give it to him. I'm like, sure, I'm never going to meet Dave. So let's just say he's not doing this. Like, let's just say he's not. But your reaction might be so extreme that I'm like, if we look back, Dave's kind of answering for Dave and Dad at the same time. And so
that's a lot to put on Dave.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Dave only deserves Dave stuff, not Dave and Dad.
Dad, yes.
And so those are the two big things that I would ask someone to do is we need to assess how valid your valid needs are. And then we also need to check the projection. So what might I still be frustrated about and have resentment for back there that I'm looking for an answer for here. And now you're not just answering for Christian. I need you to answer for Christian and my last girlfriend and my ex-wife and mom. And y'all all are getting it wrong.
Just a lot, yes.
But I got Christian right here. So you need to take care of it. And it's all an unconscious process until we make it conscious and we can slow down and say, okay, what's back there? I need to deal with that on a different day. And let's just talk about what's happening between me and you.
Yes. Make it simple.
Make it simple.
One person at a time.
One person at a time.
One person at a time.
People, when I start talking to people about daddy issues, they're like, I think I got issues with my mom too. I'm like, I know you probably
I know you do.
But we need to do one parent at a time.
That's it. We only got time for one at a time. Just one session, first of all.
Yes.
50 minutes.
Right.
And really, at a time. Can you really process all that at the same time? Anyway, so, one of the things that just came to mind for me, like the last time I had Wellness Wednesday, I had some relationship coaches on here, and some of the conversation was, is it me? Is it okay for us to tell our clients, yeah, it's you? And that's what you were kind of reminding me of. This is just taking accountability, right? It's just, that's what you do so well, is make it very consistent and very plain, is I'm not going to sugarcoat this. You need to hold yourself accountable. This is you. Because I hear a lot from women who are really kind of struggling with that relationship trauma is, I just keep attracting these assholes. I keep attracting. What is it? And I'm like, yeah, it could. Let's talk about the pattern. Let's play that tape back, like you said. You know what I'm saying? This is not to talk about how bad of a person you are, but if we're talking about attachment, relationships, and how we're basically replaying that unhealthy cycle we saw, we didn't interrupt that process. Then you probably have a little bit to do with that. Perhaps. What do you have to say about that? I mean, I would
for sure. For sure. It's all I do all day. It's be like, it's you.
Yes.
But it's shared responsibility. It's shared
Yes.
responsibility. So it's not just you, but we play a role in helping to maintain that dynamic. And so it can be, I think initially, sometimes it can be scary for someone to be like, oh God, I'm gonna go. People start their calls with me so crazy. They'll be like, oh, I know you.
I know you're finna get me, Taylor.
I know you're gonna give it to me. I'm like, dang. But I'm like, well, what happened? Like,
right.
What happened? But it's like it can be scary at first, but ultimately people end up feeling super empowered, and they're like, wow. I can do something about it. And I love hearing that when someone's like, wow, I went back home for Thanksgiving and my conversation with my family was totally different because I did something different. Wow, my conversation with my husband, the disagreement we had went totally different because I did something different. And it really makes you feel good when you're first, you're like, damn, I did all that. And then you're like, okay, but I can do something about it. And that feels really good.
Yeah, that's the piece. Because I mean, I was going to ask you if you sum it up. I feel like that's part of the answer. How can we move towards being more securely attached from more days than not? And it sounds like you taking the power and you actually taking responsibility and doing something different is part of the answer. What would you say?
Totally.
How can we get to be secure?
So back to those like kind of big points, understanding your physiology, your brand of the freak out is important. Identifying what are the unhelpful beliefs. Some people call them storylines. There's a couple different ways you could say it, right? But essentially we all of us have another word for it is a schema. So you have essentially an idea of how things are going to go. I'm going to go on this date's going to be another dud. I entered into another relationship. It's probably going to be another 60-dayer, right? Like it's some story, right? Like it's some
right
story,
from the jump.
right? From the jump. And you might not verbally say it, but it's in the energy, it's in your subconscious. And that's what a belief is. Every day, we don't think about what we believe in. We just behave. Right? I don't think about I don't go over my beliefs and values every morning. I just behave in them. And so it's the same as positive as it might be, it can be equally as negative. And so being able to identify why do I always, when there's a 3-hour gap in our text, why am I always thinking that he's talking to someone else or he's losing interest, right? That's a big one. He's losing, he or she is losing interest in me because of some, I can't think of the word, but a benign act, something that's just not actually, it's not that. But that's attached to a belief that you have about yourself, about your lovability, your worthiness, how likable you are, how dateable you are, how worthy you are of commitment. All of those things are attached to that kind of automatic thought of, they're losing interest in me. Where does that come from? Because Dave's only been here for 30 days. Dave didn't do this. Something happened before that. And so being able to identify what the basic storyline is, and then seeing how you're just taking dad out of it and putting in Dave or Bree or Karen, whatever it is. Say, okay, they're just playing the character and the plot I already decided on.
Yes, that trauma template.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's another one. So that one way to be. So I like sharing, right? And so you don't have to do all of all these mental Olympics, all this mental process on your own. So the physiological stuff, unless I have you hooked up to an EKG, I need you to tell me what your heart is doing, right? But there's some other things that you can get people involved in, and when you're getting more secure. And one of those things is asking curious questions to someone when you are feeling triggered or defensive or scared. So asking questions, which is essentially so physiological symptoms, identify the storyline, your trauma template, right? And now I need to ask questions, and I need to, which is to gather evidence, so I know whether what I think is real, whether how I've been behaving, or my trigger, where that's coming from, is it real or is it not? And so often it's not. And we really don't know if it's not, because first we don't know that it's not real because we don't tell somebody what we're thinking and feeling. And so we're just running away with a story, confirmation bias, right? Because then we go forward and you're talking to me or Christian being like, everybody wants to leave me. And I'm like, well, did you ask them? And you're like, no.
Right? Overgeneralizing, just running with that story.
Running with the story. So asking questions and being willing to be wrong. So maybe it's not that you didn't text me back in 24 hours. Maybe it's not that you're plotting to leave me. Maybe there was something else. Maybe we have different communication patterns. Maybe you had something happening in your day. Whatever. Asking curious questions to challenge whatever belief storyline you have running in your head. Asking for help. So those are some things that you can start doing now to start moving towards security. But the processing of it is really important to do in therapy.
Yes, I love that, because it's just a matter of, Jessica says, staying intellectually curious. And I like that, where I think you use it tonight too. Just treating yourself kind of like a science project. Just get up in there, find some triggers, figure out what the storyline is. I was doing that earlier today in a session, and just really like, tell me about that first time you felt that hit in your stomach. Like every time I mention daddy, this look comes. Now we're on the screen like me and you, and I see your legs bouncing. Says, tell me more about that. Because this came from some place, and you developed immediately a story right there, a story that you made to protect yourself. Because you know, the hyperventilating and the sweaty palms and things, they're made to protect us. It's a warning, right? That's what trauma is. Those are the red flags. But how can we shift that so that it's more of a tell, so you don't have to go all the way to 100? It just means, like you said earlier, just my heart palpitating like this. Okay, this just means I'm feeling unsafe. And I wanted to clarify one of the things that you were talking about, a term you use, perceived threat. So like, for what are you guys who are not in the biz, you know, would really hear this word a lot. For those of you who don't know, what she's talking about is like, there may be an actual bear here to come eat you, or something that makes you feel like the bear made you feel when you were there. Right. So like, my dad is not actually leaving me every single day. You may feel that way when you're in this relationship because you have the same physiological reaction. So that perceived threat, right? You're making it up because that's what your body knows from never having interrupting, like Taylor is saying, that process. So we could talk about this all night.
Literally.
So and I want to encourage you guys to follow Taylor, period. That's all I'm going to say. I want to share with you how you can find her. Before we say goodbye, I'm going to let her let you know what she has going on. She has amazing content literally every day, several times a day. And so you can go get more of what she's talking about tonight. If you have questions, she will willingly answer them and do fun polls, all the things that you can really walk away with something. So tell us what you got going on, what you got coming up, how we can
Thanks. Yes, it's an exciting time for attachment.
Yes, it is. Happy holidays.
It's an exciting time. Right? Love it. So some things going on. Free work. There is a free workshop this Saturday. It's December 4th. It's Healing Childhood. I'll do it again in 2022. It's 2 hours. It's free. The link is in my bio. My Instagram is I am Taylor Chandler, and that's where I'm at. Period. I'm just on Instagram. I think I might do some YouTube in 2022. I'm definitely I'm leaning there. But yeah, Instagram is my jammy jam. So I am Taylor Chandler is me on Instagram. It's also my website. I do one-on-ones and I do groups. The groups are just for women as of now. But oh my gosh, I just have to say this. The men are ready.
Okay.
The men are ready to go.
They are here trying to be healed. Yes.
Yeah. So they're doing a lot of really good work. So I'm trying to get something together for the men right now. Reattach is the group for women. And there's a second part of Reattach too called Recalibrate. That's only open to people who did reattach. So that's really exciting because you get to be with people from different reattach groups that are like familiar with the attachment language. They know where they're at. They know what they want. They know where they're going and being with them. So that's really cool. Reattach is it's the same goal as with my individuals. It's moving from an individual, rather from an insecure attachment style to a secure attachment style. It's a 6-week group. It's so much cheaper than doing one-on-ones.
Absolutely.
So love
So
group.
get into it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's like that's 99% of people's thing. I mean, money is always a part of the decision. So I love group for many reasons, but one is that it saves you a lot of money, and then you get a really good foundation for what you need. Because so then when you are ready to do one-on-ones with whoever you want to do them with, you're already super, like, you've got like bullseyes that you're ready to hit, rather than just so much exploring about like who knows what, especially if you're not working with someone who knows like attachment styles well. So you kind of want to go ahead and have your stuff and be like, okay, who can help me make more sense out of this? And that's one of the reasons why I love groups so much. So then 2 are happening at the same time for Reattach in 2022. One starts on January 16th. That's a Sunday. And the other starts on Wednesday, January 19th. So 2 options, and you can find that interest form on my bio on Instagram. And I have a podcast called Boundaries and Grace, which is on Apple and Spotify. So that's the main stuff.
That is it, y'all. And I'm a regular listener of Boundaries and Grace. If you follow me on Instagram, you're welcome. If you follow me on Instagram, then I post them sometimes. And listen, she takes donations as well, because the group is not going to pay for itself. I think that as helpers, we give so much away for free that it's just nice if we can just have somebody just bless us and keep the business going the way we want to, because we're trying to get this reach the way that I feel like our communities need them. So I'm going to let you go, Taylor. I'm so excited that you came. Thank you so much for dropping the gem, sis. I hope this is not the last time you come to Wellness Wednesdays.
For sure.
I will holler at you. Y'all find Taylor on the gram.
Yes. Y'all have a good night. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. All right, you guys. I really hope that you all enjoyed meeting Miss Taylor Chandler. She's amazing. She has so much more to say than what she said tonight. I want to encourage you to go back and rewatch it, because I know you ain't catch all of it. I know you didn't. Okay, so go back, study that things, figure out how you can get to where Taylor said you can be. Empower yourself to figure out how you can feel safe enough to do something different and interrupt whatever those patterns were. I want to just say tomorrow night, y'all, is How to Fight the Holiday Blues Family Edition, Family Drama Edition. I have a free webinar coming up tomorrow night, 7:30 on December 2nd, 2021. You can go to the link in my bio on Instagram, register, it's free, and we'll get to talking about a little bit about what Taylor was saying is it's popping for us out here during the holidays. So come and get some tips for free about how to deal with all the family drama during the holidays. I have been Christian Jackson. Thank you guys for bearing with me through my technical difficulties and things. Sorry if I was using some choice language that your kids may be around for, but hey, this is life. I hope y'all come back, and I will let y'all know when the next Wellness Wednesday is. You can find me at couchwithchristian.com or at couchwithchristian on Instagram. Have a good night. Please tag, like, and share. Good night, you guys.